Do you like a cotton candy cereal cake, little baby?
I like it.
You like it? The stuff that they make these days, this is crazy. You don't think it's a little too sweet, or is it yummy?
It's yummy. Then sweet. It's yummy then sweet.
Yummy and sweet, right? Well, as long as you like it, little baby.
Yummy then sweet.
Yummy then sweet? Okay. All right. Welcome to FaBled Hunters.
I'm Yuanji.
I'm Saint.
And today we're going to be talking about some spicy takes that I have.
Spicy takes.
Yeah.
It's controversial ass stuff, and I cannot take it. I just will not stand for it whatsoever. But you wanted to make this episode, so you have at it, man. Because we are not going to agree on this no matter what.
Okay, so I think the thing that got me kind of thinking about this is we're done with Pro Tour Amsterdam.
Yep.
Even though, Zen didn't win.
Yep.
Zen won the calling. Charles won the calling on Zen.
He did. Congrats, Charles Dunn.
Zen has just been kind of just like sweeping like all of the top 8s for like every single CC event. Zen has been like about like half of the top 8.
Okay.
I think in his most recent interview with flesh+blood's podcast, Brian Gottlieb said that there's like a couple of things about Zen that they thought that they made a mistake on.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, traverse the universe blocking for 2.
Mm-hmm.
I think he also said that I think flesh+blood is kind of in a awkward spot if the very best deck is like the aggro deck that you can't like really interact with.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of things to digest, but on that topic, I think today I want to talk about cards that I think should get banned from CC at some point, and for some of these cards at some point is now.
Okay.
And I'll talk about I'll give my suggestions, and then you tell me on a scale of 1 to cuckoo crazy what you think they are. So I think my number 1, I think it's a mild take. But I think that Art of War should get banned.
Wait, this is number 1?
Yeah, Art of War is least spicy.
Least spicy?
Yeah.
Well, what are you talking about? Art of War is like the second most collectible card in Arcane Rising.
Yep.
Art of War is what made the whole collectible world like roll over in their graves when they printed the Judge Cold Foil Art of War.
Yeah.
Art of War is the enablement engine for like Fi, for like Chain, right?
Yeah.
For like, wasn't Lexi playing Art of War?
No.
And Lexi was never playing Art of War?
Yeah,
some
people were.
Right?
It wasn't like a
but for sure Zen is playing Art of War.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And all these aggro
Leviah
decks,
plays Art of War.
Leviah Art of. Okay, so why are you suggesting the one thing to give that little steroid to aggro decks to ban it? I don't understand. I will hear you out, but like for me, it's like an 8 out of 10 in Crazy Land, because I just don't agree with it. I just can't see a justification to ban Art of War.
Yeah. So I think it's important first to just talk about the function of power spike cards in Flesh+Blood.
Mm-hmm.
What purpose they serve, that I think is a positive one.
Mm-hmm.
So I think power spike cards are really important for a lot of decks to give the deck identity, so that you know what you're trying to set up for. A lot of Flesh+Blood is about using the arsenal to set up a bigger play, not just like dumping your level 0 Flesh+Blood. You just you draw your hand, you just dump your hand every turn, right? That's like for the very beginners, and then once they start figuring out, I should be doing this. This is like the play that my deck should be doing.
Okay.
I start setting it up. So it's important to have cards like Bloodrush Bellow.
Okay.
You have cards like Bonds of Ancestry and Ninja. In what's it called? In, let's say, Warrior, you have Glistening Steelblade. You have the Iron Song Determination, the one that gives what's called Dominate.
Okay.
Ways to chain your stuff together.
Yeah.
You have Blade Flurry, that's like a power spike.
It is.
For Dorinthia.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really important to have some of these like key cards that you don't really want to block with them. Like, that you want to be casting them multiple times, return for Guardians, like Crippling Crush, Spinal Crush, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So Art of War kind of functions in that respect in Zen. But
doesn't it block 2 to begin with?
Art of War?
Yeah. Or does it not block
Art
at
of
all?
War doesn't block at all.
Okay, so there's already a huge downside. That's already taking away 3 points of value.
Sure,
right?
Sure. Oh, only if you were forced to block your whole hand out. So like the main issue that I have with Art of War is that, and I would say like its lesser cousin, Ancestral Harmony. I think both of them exhibit similar issues, where the power of the card scales too well, especially as they design more cards that add more chain links.
Okay.
So an example of a card that they printed before that made 2 chain links was like Double Strike. Double Strike is like, it makes 2 chain links, but it only does like 1 damage a piece.
Yep.
So like the card itself is doing like 2 damage. It's like pretty crappy.
Mm-hmm.
Now they printed cards like Bonds of Ancestry. They printed Aspect of Tiger Body.
Mm-hmm.
Aspect of Tiger Body just like makes 2 chain links by itself.
Okay.
Zen's Hero Power makes 2 chain links essentially. So your Transcend makes 2 chain links. It makes a Tiger plus a combo card.
A combo card?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bonds of Ancestry also like, it could be like 3 chain links because if you tutor the Aspect of Tiger Body,
okay,
that's like another chain link. So the ability for heroes like Zen to grow their chain link is like really big. You see like sometimes on stream like people will be playing like 8, 9 attacks on a single turn.
Okay.
So like if you do the math on that, Art of War costs 1 resource, and
which is a third of a card, right?
Yeah. And then if you use it, let's say on the tiger that your boot makes,
okay,
then you also draw a card essentially.
Sure.
When you draw 2, because you use the card that you didn't need that didn't cost you a card at the beginning, that wasn't going to attack for any points.
Okay.
And you get an extra card. So if you're tagging with 8 attacks, then you get 8 power out of it plus an extra card.
But that's conditional for you to set up to that extent in the first place.
Yeah, but the only setup is I just have the Art of War and then I block with my boot. That's the only setup.
Sure, but you only get to use your boot once.
But you only have to use it once. Because Flesh and Blood is designed in a way where it's like balanced like pretty tightly, so that it's really hard for most turns to go massively above or massively below rate.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're talking about going above rate, like you attack with like a Lava Burst, you're attacking for 5 on a single card.
Yep.
You get +2. You attack with what's it called? You attack with like a Snatch and a Hits.
Yep.
You draw an extra card. That's like +3. Plus like, yeah,
3
it's like
or more.
3 to 4.
Yep.
Right. Art of War on an 8 chain link wide turn is +7.
Okay.
And then if you drew a card with your boots, then it goes into like the +10, +11 territory.
Okay.
So you're essentially, it's like you get to hit like 2 snatches without your opponent being able to interact with it. I mean, obviously they can interact. They can attack with stuff like CNC, Weakest Link. But like when you get to play your hand, like,
wasn't this round's on me too, or some other? There was some anti-fi tech as well as some.
This round's on me actually doesn't work that well because you give them another card back. So as long as the card that it is good in like against Art of War, but like oftentimes it also like draws them towards, because they have 6 things that like buff their team. So they have Ancestral Harmony and they have Art of War.
Okay.
So you know like if you draw them into one of these, then it's like you just like didn't do anything and you gave them an extra card.
Okay.
So yes, it like there are cards that interact with it on some level, but I think the main problem is that it scales too well. And I know there's been like a history, of LSS hitting cards like this. Like they banned Stubby Hammers, they banned Bloodsheet Skeleta.
Sure.
And so I think that there's a history, like really, really powerful cards like Codex of Frailty and Flesh and Blood are worth about 7 to 8.
Okay.
So they go like +4 or 5.
Okay.
So for one card to be able to go like +10 or higher is crazy.
Well, you said if a base card is worth 3 and it's worth 10 or 11, so it's +7 or +8 Art of War, according to you, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so +7 or +8 is crazy.
Okay. I would counter argue that Art of War is one of the base mechanics of the game that came from year one, right? It's one of the base generic engines of the game, and Art of War powers, like I was saying, almost every viable aggro deck. It makes these aggro decks what they are. It is like taking, I don't know, Fireball out of red, right? And saying,
I think that's a bad argument, because it's like, how come Ancestral Recall is banned? Why is Time Walk banned?
But that's a different game altogether. That's like you're
but
banning all of the Power 9.
I'm saying it's the same set. You can make the same argument. Well, I designed blue around the ability to take an extra turn.
Okay, but it's not blue. Art of War is playable by everybody. That's like saying you should ban Enlightened Strike.
But you're saying that you think that if Ancestral Recall was colorless, that it would not be banned?
Well, then everybody would be able to use it.
It would still be banned. Pot of Greed is banned.
Okay. Draw 2 cards, right?
Yeah, like some of these cards, like, they're just too powerful. Like, just because like the card came out in a base set, I don't think is
it's part of the infrastructure of the game, is my argument. You're arguing for something that doesn't exist right now, right? And
I don't think so. I think it's fundamentally breaking the game. And every single time they've made a really powerful aggro deck, they've always had to nerf it almost immediately. And all that these decks have in common is that they just play Art of War. But every time they make like a busted ninja deck, they always ban it.
But I would counter and say that if you took out Art of War, then that might make aggro nearly non-viable, and it would make, mid-range or control too much stronger.
They need to just print better cards for the aggro decks. That's the problem. But they can't print them because of Art of War.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. But I would also say that it would
they did print them. Like, they printed Bonds of Ancestry, but they had to ban Bonds of Ancestry because of Art of War.
Okay. But if they banned Art of War, imagine the backlash that would have on the whole collector's base worldwide. That'd be pretty bad.
Well,
right?
so this is, I think, like, my other tie-in on why I think Art of War ban could be good. Uh-huh. I think an Art of War ban from CC could honestly also drive more interest in LL format.
Okay.
Because, I'm honestly for the idea that you should be able to, within the context of Flesh and Blood, you should be able to play these types of strategies, and it is really cool to be able to pull off. I watched Brody, like, in a casual game, pull off like a 52 damage turn. Okay. But like, for competitive play, I think it's nonsense. It's nonsense that a player is able to do 52 damage in a single turn. Okay.
I hear the argument. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, you can block your whole hand and take 40.
Yeah.
So I think that, and he did it off of, like, basically no setup. It's just he blocked his boots, he did Art of War, he drew into an Ancestral, and Ancestral hit a combo card. And so it hits a combo card off the top of the deck. Mm-hmm. And, like, that's all it takes. So, like, I that's my main issue, is I think that the cards themselves, they just, like, fundamentally break the game. It's possible, for example, to come back, like, let's say somebody gets an extra card worth of value on you. Okay. They go plus 7. Okay. Or sorry, not plus 7. They go plus 3 to 4. Okay. Like, they hit a snatch, whatever. It's possible to come back from that. It's possible even to come back from, like, 2 things like that, because, sometimes, like, people draw their hands, they don't line up well. Mm-hmm. Anybody who's played into Guardian, sometimes, like, you block your whole hand against Guardian, they waste a card. Okay. Whatever. It happens all the time. But if you're able to play multiple cards per turn that draw you, like, 2 extra cards worth of value, then you start the game, but, like, over the course of the game, you go, like, plus 4 cards, 5 cards over somebody. You cannot come back from that. Okay. So it takes away, I think, from the back and forth nature of Flesh and Blood, which I think is really integral to the Flesh and Blood experience.
But, I mean, case in point, Azuri, I don't think, played any Art of Wars, right? And he locked down every single Zen that he bumped into.
Yeah, but you have to play a deck like Azuri. Like, none of the other decks are viable. Okay. Like if a deck isn't playing it, you can't say that Art of War is fine because you can make decks that counter Art of War, because then it just becomes like I either play the deck or I play the counter deck type of situation.
And you're saying that there's no healthy circular flow.
Right? I'm not saying that it has to be like a circular. I just think, like, I think that there's a lot to be said that if you spend a lot of your time mastering a deck and you just become really familiar with all the situations, you should be able to reasonably do, like, okay at a tournament. I'm not saying you should be able to win the tournament, but you should be able to do fine. And it's like, I remember when I was like testing with Ethan, and Ethan is like one of the best Leviathan. He's the best Leviathan in the world, I think. Right? It's impossible to come up with a strategy that beats Zen. The only way that you can beat Zen, even if you tech your entire deck to beat Zen, you can get like a 20% win rate against a competent Zen because they bricked. And so like that's what I mean. Like sometimes it's just like there's just some cards that just like break the math of Flesh and Blood. Like Flesh and Blood is inherently a fundamentally math based game.
Okay.
So I think that when you have cards that just go like way beyond like what everybody else has like within their realm of acceptable power level of cards, I think it's just no good.
Okay, so I hear your argument, and I'm glad this is just an argument.
Yeah.
Because I would personally feel really, really bad if they banned Art of War.
Okay.
From CC, okay. If they banned it altogether, then
no. From CC, and I think that it's an argument for Living Legend.
Okay.
As a play space for
that's fair.
All these things.
You're entitled to your opinion, Yuanji. I give that a crazy level 8 out of 10 because I don't think it's reasonable, and I think those 4 cards, AOW, CMC, ES, as well as Tome. Tome would be by far the number 4, but AOW is somewhere like 2 to 2.5, probably higher than E-Strike in the importance of, OG generics to the core set and the core architecture of the game for now. Maybe stuff gets too degenerate, and I see what you're saying, but I don't think that Art of War right now is the solve. And we can disagree on this all day. So you've got other suggestions,
number
right?
Number two. I think Arclite Sentinel should get banned.
Arclite Sentinel. All right. I am biased about this because I've been victim to Arclite Sentinel personally many times. And the first ever time that I got shut out 0 to 40 was by an Arclite Sentinel playing Prism deck.
Yeah.
So I feel less bad about this. But what are your reasons for taking out Arclite Sentinel?
Yeah, so I think Arclite Sentinel, similar to Art of War, is able to generate this like huge amount of card advantage. Arclite Sentinel is kind of less. It's less obvious when where it's generating the power, and I think that Prism hasn't at least currently been doing as good as Zen in tournaments. So it's a little bit more out there to ask for like a ban on a card like this in particular. But one of the worst things about Arclite Sentinel, I think that it does in terms of the gameplay loop, is that it makes the entire game about whether or not the Arclite Sentinels come early enough. Okay. Because if basically right now, and for a lot of decks, when you're playing into the new Prism, if you don't have let's say like a time snap potion or like a time skippers or something like that, you're basically just hoping that they can't play Arclite Sentinel when you run out of action points early enough in the game.
I understand what you're saying.
Or early enough in the game so that it doesn't matter, because like Prism can set up this board state where if they have the Erudition Figment and the Angel flipped, they basically, even though they start the game down 8 life, they take a lot of damage to play the Arclite Sentinel. It it draws into more Arclite Sentinels. They attack with the Angel. They draw 2 cards. They are just able to come back in a way that it kind of makes the entire game just focus. It's like nothing really matters except for this one thing, which I think makes for kind of uncompelling gameplay. And let's say a situation came out where Prism was the best deck in the format. Okay. It just creates a very negative play experience. Either the Arclite Sentinel just outright wins the game, or the opponent. For example, I think it was Dan had a situation where his opponent played an Arclite Sentinel against him, didn't see that he had time skippers, and then just loses the game on the spot because he played Arclite Sentinel.
Wait. Arclite Sentinel, time skippers, isn't that not an instant speed? That's a regular action speed, right?
Yeah, but basically I have to make an attack, so you can't redirect the attack to the Arclite Sentinel. So at any point you play the Arclite Sentinel, as long as I have cards in my hand, I can just activate the time skippers.
Wait, so you have to declare Arclite Sentinel first before I make my attack? Because I'm trying to understand.
If I make my attack, if it has go again, I can still do whatever afterwards.
Okay, but what? the Arclite Sentinel shuts down an attack and ends your action point, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Right? So I even in Pro Tour, I sideboarded out. I never used it, but I sideboarded out some of my legs.
Yeah.
Whether it was like Iron Rot legs or Iron Hide legs with the 1 mana for 2 leg defense for time skippers to play against or play around Arclite Sentinel.
Yeah.
What is the purpose of that? Because as Dorinthia, all I remember was, I'm Dorinthia, I'm swinging with a blade. This is it. I just need to get this hit through. If I don't get this hit through, then I don't get my counter and I don't
Yeah,
win.
the problem with Dorinthia is that Dorinthia is like limited by like the number of attacks that she can do, and so she needs to hit her sword to get a second swing.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, like, if you play any deck that can attack with like multiple attacks, either you have like different weapons or
So it was the weapon that was
the once
limiting
per
me.
turn that was limiting.
Okay, that was limiting me. So Arclite Sentinel doesn't stop every other deck. It only like stops Dawnblade Dorinthia the most.
Yeah, I would say like, I mean, like, it's really good into it. Like Arclite Sentinel is really good into Assassin.
Okay.
It's really good into even into like Illusionist Mirrors, like instant.
But when I was playing Bravo or Starvo, why was the time skippers necessary? How did that counter Arclite Sentinel once, for example?
For Bravo, it was mostly because you could attack with like a powerful attack afterwards. Like you could like activate the time skippers when they played Arclite Sentinel.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. How do you activate the time skippers? They're Arclite Sentineling as an instant on your turn in response to something, aren't they?
It doesn't matter like what, like you have go again. Like I don't understand. There's no timing. Because they can't like redirect their attack.
When I was Dorinthia, I would swing at their face, they would Arclite Sentinel, and I was done. It didn't matter how many counters. My Dorinthia fun ended. That was Dorinthia Fun Police.
So what they should have done is they should have against Dorinthia, you're supposed to play Arclite Sentinel on your turn.
Okay.
So then the Dorinthia has to attack the Arclite Sentinel as their first attack.
Okay.
So if they do that, then it doesn't matter if you have time skippers on Dorinthia, because you haven't hit, so you can't attack a second time.
Oh, but
and you can't get into the reaction to use Twinning Blade either.
What they really did most of the time was, I'm about to declare my attack. They played Arclite Sentinel as an instant, and that shut me down because I had to attack.
That's only if you play like a non-attack action. You can play like a non-attack action. They play Arclite Sentinel.
Okay.
Basically, they just need the Arclite to block the first attack.
Understood. So if you do your time skippers and they play Arclite, then you're killing the Arclite and then you're attacking them with something bigger, right?
Yeah. So
or
like
you're using your time snap potion. You're killing the Arclite with the first attack.
Yeah.
Something small.
Yeah, like you throw like a Zephyr Needle at it, and then you attack with other stuff.
And then you attack with your main attack.
Yeah,
right.
Like against Dorinthia, like one of the ways that you can play around Arclite Sentinel is that you just don't play non-attack actions at the beginning. You just attack them with the Dawnblade. And then you have like attack reaction that give you go again. So like they can't ever like play the Arclite Sentinel for value.
Okay.
So they should just like play it on their turn.
Understood. I get it. Maybe I was being maybe back in the days, early days of Fab, when Prism was dominant, I was not reacting the right way, or I was misunderstanding how the interaction with the Arclite Sentinel worked.
In any case, I think the biggest issue with the card is that it makes the entire game just focused on like that one card.
Yep.
It doesn't matter like what you or your opponent is playing. It's just like it's like a singular thing where it's like I have the opponent has the answer to the Arclite Sentinel, they win. They don't have the answer, they lose, kind of thing.
Okay.
So I think it just makes like a really like Flesh and Blood doesn't have like too many of those types of interactions. Like there's obviously always like going to be really powerful cards, but it's never like, oh well, if they play Crippling Crush this game, I lose. You know, like I can block the Crippling Crush. If they dominate it, I can play like defense reactions.
Okay.
You know, I can like do things. But with a card like Arclite Sentinel, for the most part, it's you have a way to deal with it. You win. You don't. You lose.
I would say that just by our interaction, it sounds like there's a lot more ways than one to deal with and work around Arclite Sentinel, and it feels like less of a controversial ban than Art of War to me, from somebody that doesn't play enough. I personally don't like seeing that card, Arclite Sentinel, because it feels like a time walk for them. That's 6 cost that, you know, me as a Dorinthia stan, it takes away my turn from me. But to be fair, I believe it's balanced because it costs 6 resources, where if it's a traditional prism, that would be 3 yellow cards, right?
Yeah, but now you just like pop Halo, play Tome.
Play Tome?
Of Divinity.
Oh, to draw more cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually the Arclite costs 2 cards in pitch.
Okay. So 2 blues, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's costing 2 blues, and a third, so it's basically 3 cards, and they have what? 1 or 2 cards left to play with, right? Unless they're already comboing it up.
But then they also get to but then on the follow-up turn they get to draw 2 more cards with their angel. It's like a combination of all the things that they have.
Well, that's the payoff for Prism to get rewarded by their game state, similar to back to Art of War by the aggro deck saving up all their cards and pushing all their damage in one key hand.
Yeah, but all
that's
Prism,
their reward.
but
that's
all
their payoff.
Prism has to do to set up that game state is activate their hat. Because they activate their hat, they get the Erudition Figment.
Okay. I don't know how Prism works, but it still sounds like you're sacrificing gear to set up everything for this one play, and it can get countered by something as simple as an item, a Time Snap Potion, or the legs, right?
Yeah, but
Time Skipper.
I just think that I think that the main problem is that it just makes the entire gameplay revolve around that one card.
Okay. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
I will say controversy level is between a 5, let's call it a 5.5 out of 10 to me. But I'm biased, and I hate that card. I hate seeing an Arclite Sentinel, and I hate that Prism, especially OG Prism, has it in her kit. Probably new Prism still has an Arclite Sentinel, right?
Yeah.
And with the Arclite Sentinel, she's not winning that bad, right? So it's less of a problem than Art of War, I think. So I don't think that's that controversial of a ban. So, all right, what else do you have for us?
All right, last one. This is probably the most controversial. I think that Fyendal Spring Tunic should be banned at some point in Flesh and Blood.
At some point in Flesh and Blood.
From Classic Constructed.
From Classic Constructed. All right. I don't know why, but just from... I know it's not about how I feel, but just my immediate instinct is what the fuck? Yeah. Why? No. Why? Yeah. No. Most games, Fyendal Spring Tunic gives you 2 resources of value. I would say most games, because it's a very fast meta these days, right? In the olden meta, maybe it gave you 4, 5, or 6. Sure.
7, 8.
Okay, fine. That's because olden went forever, right? But these days, 2 value, 1 block.
Yeah.
Right? 2 resources, 1 block.
Yeah.
And these days, I don't think even 1 resource is necessarily always worth 1 life. Right?
Yeah, but on some turns, 1 resource is worth 1 card.
On some turns, yes. But you're saving up for 3 turns, sometimes more if you're Pheno, to get your 1 resource, right?
Yeah.
Because if you forget your Tunic counter, but no. Every 3 turns, you get 1 resource, and that's your payoff turn of working with otherwise a suboptimally blocking piece of equipment. And that's just crazy. Tunic is more iconic to the game of Flesh and Blood than Heart of Fyendal. And Tunic is Tunic. That's it's literally the Black Lotus of the game of Flesh and Blood.
Well, Black Lotus was also not legal in most Magic the Gathering formats.
No, I understand, and that helps your argument, but I'm just saying that it's the most pervasive symbol of the game of Flesh and Blood.
Yeah.
And to be removed from Classic Constructed, I don't know what type of world or what type of meta it would have to be, or how many cards would have to be printed, but I just don't see it. That's not even a 10 out of 10. That's a 14 out of 10 in terms of outrageousness.
Sure.
Because remember your Tunic counter, remember your Tunic counter, remember your Tunic counter is that's part of playing the game of Flesh and Blood, as long as you're playing a Tunic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't see where that gets disruptive. That's a Tunic is so much more innocuous than an Art of War in terms of disruption, or even an Arclite Sentinel, right? What did Tunic do to you, Yuanji? I don't get it.
I think it ultimately comes down to what they can design, what their design space is. So I think that Tunic shines the most in situations where the extra resource is worth a whole card. So examples of that is, let's say you're playing Command and Conquer and then you pummel it. play costs 4 resources.
Okay.
So you can't do that without a Tunic.
Sure.
So that play is worth 10 damage for the most part. Like, you can't react to it with defense reactions. So, you know, either the Command and Conquer, they're just gonna like block 10, in which case it becomes a 2-card 10, or they're gonna play into the pummel, in which case they lose their arsenal, they discard a card, they take whatever, you're attacking for 10. So you essentially get 10 plus 2 cards.
Okay.
For 3 cards, which is also just like a crazy rate.
Okay.
And Tunic is kind of the thing that puts it all together. So like when you're playing like a Tunic deck, you're trying to make as many of these situations where like the Tunic resource is worth a whole card.
Okay.
Another example would be like use Codex of Frailty, you get back a Death Touch. You spend the Tunic to play with the Death Touch. The Death Touch is 6 damage. If it hits, it's 8, so you become like a 1-card 8. Plus you get a Ponder token, it's like 1 card, I don't know, 8 plus.
So, but that came from the Frailty, no? Not the Death Touch, right? You said Codex of Frailty into Death Touch. Didn't the Ponder token come from Frailty, not
No,
Tunic?
I know. No, I know, but I'm saying, but you can't play the Death Touch without the Tunic.
Okay.
So, but then that it just like you're threatening 8 damage, you draw a card. So you're fishing for all of these like situations, and yes, like I think like the way that they're designing cards right now, a lot of it is like has in mind the ability for Tunic to like spike your turn.
Yeah.
So like a lot of Guardian has like a lot of like 4-cost attacks. You can play that with Tunic.
Warrior lived off of Steelblade Shunt for a while.
Yeah,
right?
like you can play Steelblade Shrine with Warrior. So there's like a lot of things that like Tunic kind of enables you to do. My argument for why I think that Tunic should get banned, and this is looking into the future of the game, is that I think that Fyendal Spring Tunic is a little bit too restrictive in card design, and I think that it's like too generically good. Like you're giving up very little, honestly, when it comes to block. Like you're just not giving up enough.
You're giving up the ability to block.
No, you're not, because you will always be able to block with your Tunic over the course of the game.
Just for one, at the very end,
I know,
when you
but
sacrifice the ability to produce mana.
Yeah, but like, but
resources.
the way that Flesh and Blood is played, like it doesn't matter like what if you can do it at the beginning of the game or at the end of the game, as long as you can do it, like you're always gonna get like that point out of it.
Okay.
And then you're always gonna be able to get like 2 or 3 resources and hopefully convert that into like 2 or 3 cards.
Yeah, let's call it 2.5 resources in today's meta. I don't think as the strongest card in your deck or the strongest equipment that you have and the most prolific piece of equipment in Flesh and Blood, that those 2 resources will definitely give you 2 cards every single time. Maybe those 2 resources result in 1 or 1.5 cards worth of utility, but you remember to pitch up your Tunic, you hit the right time, you save the resource for the right situation, for optimal situations, and because it's generic, it's fair to every single deck. So it's not just for aggro decks, it's not just for control decks, it's not just for mid-range decks.
Yeah, but I think the fact that it's generic is honestly kind of bad because you can play it in every deck. Like if Tunic was only playable in one deck, it would be, in my opinion, less of an issue. I think it just like, it really constricts the space for how good chess pieces have to be designed in order for them to be replaceable. You look at something like the Tiger Kasaya, for example. That card blocks 2. It generates like usually on average like 2 or 3 resources a game. Okay. Like
the 12 petal?
Yeah, 12 petal Kasaya. Like that card is ridiculous. And it's like part of the reason why Zen is so stupid, because Zen has 6 power or 6 defense on block between Shuko, the Traverse, and the 12 petal Kasaya. Okay. You just like you have this like barrier that you need to cross, and so I think that the existence of Tunic in Classic Constructed drives the people who design the game to like push like any chess piece that they make just has to get pushed like more and more. You look at a card like Redback Shroud. Redback Shroud, I think in theory is just like a super strong card. In practice, that card is unplayable because it doesn't interact with Codex of Frailty, which is like the thing that you use your Tunic on the most. The 2 most common plays is you go like Dagger, Tunic, Codex, Command and Conquer. Okay. Or you go, or you have Tunic to pay for like like an attack reaction that you're going to do anyways. Okay. But using the Tunic to pay for the attack reaction is sometimes even better than using the chess piece, because sometimes like you need it to have like some card in your pitch Like for some of the new attack reactions, like you want to have like a blue in your pitch. So it lets you structure your turn. Like you can use like the Tunic, you like pitch a blue, you like play something.
Okay.
First. Maybe you like pitch the blue.
So you're saying Tunic is too much better than Redback Shroud, it sounds like.
Yeah, and even the Redback Shroud, I think on paper is kind of crazy where
you could get it back.
Like yeah, exactly.
Absorb
like
damage.
You get it back. Let's say like if you get it back twice, you block 2. You get 2 resources out of it.
Yeah.
It seems like it would be very strong, but in practice, it's just like less flexible. You can't use it to pay for attacks. There's just like there's a lot of issues. You can't use it to pay for pummel. Or you can, I guess. You can use it to pay for pummel, but like I think it's just like much more limiting.
Okay.
Relative to Tunic, and so I don't want to push the game designers to continually always design cards. Like, what are they going to do? They're just going to never print like legendary chess pieces, or they're going to keep like power creeping the chess pieces. Like, I don't want them to keep power creeping the equipment. I would rather them at some point in the game. I'm not saying right now. Mm-hmm. I think probably Tunic is fine right now, okay. But I think at some point in the game, Tunic has to get banned.
Okay, I just don't see it, and there would be a collective face palming and torches and pitchforks from the entire collector community.
Yeah.
Being that the most valuable card on the planet right now is a gold foil Tunic. Mm-hmm. The most valuable known card that's, attainable by every man is, possible.
Yeah.
Is gold foil Fyendal Spring Tunic with 50 copies.
Yeah.
And then right up there is cold foil Fyendal Spring Tunic with 800 copies.
Yeah.
And then right between them is 200 copies of, Road to Nationals Rainbow Foil Extended Art Tunic. And I just think that would decimate the entire, the value of collectors' collections. And I don't think it's wise. But gameplay-wise, I just don't see it either.
But like what happened in Magic when they like rotated out Power 9 or like whatever, like they like when did they make when they made like Type 2, they just like banned all the cards are like not legal. Did that like destroy the value of those cards? I'm not sure.
It didn't. No, and the cards weren't that valuable because when Type 2 was introduced, it was like 1995 from what I remember that Type 2 was introduced. They fortunately introduced Type 2 so early on in the game that it didn't, there's just a simple division and there was no saltiness from the collectors. Here we're 5 years into the format of Classic Constructed being the main format, and then LL is kind of like an off-ramp, afterwards format. I don't know how you retire Tunic. I don't see it happening. I think you're like 2 of your 3 examples are key building blocks. One from Welcome to Wraith, one from Arcane Rising. Yeah. Monarch, forget it. But 2 of your 3 examples of necessary bans are so key to the game of Flesh and Blood that I just couldn't see the game. The texture of the game would fundamentally shift drastically without those inclusions in competitive play. You know what I mean?
Like, no, I don't.
You don't. No. You're saying that let's imagine Tunic doesn't exist and Art of War doesn't exist. You don't think that 80% of decks will need to find a replacement for Tunic and none of them will be as good. And almost all of the aggro decks...
what does it matter if they're not as good?
But people have been used to playing with an optimized, smoothed out deck with an extra power spike every 3 turns. And that's almost like the heartbeat of Flesh and Blood.
That's
right?
Not.
It feels like it, at least. Like from a rudimentary player, it feels like bum bum, get through these, bang, bum bum, bang.
Well,
every 3 turns.
I don't know what to say, but that's not how Flesh and Blood's currently played.
Okay.
Right now, Flesh and Blood is just like, do you hit Transcend by turn 2? If not, you lose.
I don't play enough Mistveil, or I didn't play enough Mistveil to know, but maybe we're calling this old school Flesh and Blood, right? Yeah. Because it used to be bum bum. This is my turn. This is my chance to shine, right? Take 2 turns off. This is my big turn. Take 2 turns off. This is my big turn. For to utilize that Tunic resource the right way. Yeah. Sometimes, most of the time, right? That's how you optimize. Maybe that's not, Flesh and Blood, 3,000 level, college level course, Professor Yuanji. But like, Tunic just seems to be like that on the day-to-day, kitchen table level, or at the LGS level, or at an event, right? Remember your 2 counters. Third turn, this is when you send it. Second turn, you've got 2 counters. Maybe I'll arsenal a card. Maybe I'll expend all of my cards except for 1. Set up for the big turn and go hard, right? That's at least that's my knowledge of Flesh and Blood.
Sure.
On the pro level, you're saying everything's about whether you transcend or not.
Yeah, so if you transcend, you hit like your disruption.
But there you go. That shows your bias for part of the Visveil, right?
But I mean,
yeah.
I don't know what to say. Like that's just how
the meta is on the sweaty level, right?
Yeah. But even in other formats, like when let's say like KO plays Tunic, like it's
Doesn't
like
KO play Sash these days?
Sometimes, but it's like when KO play Tunic, it's like you hit your Tunic, so that just lets you roll your Scabskins to try to like get 3 damage.
Scabskins for 3 damage?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
So like you have your Tunic on 3, you roll Scabskin, so if you hit an extra action point, you get to do your attack plus claw. Otherwise, you just do your attack.
Okay, so you've got that one more resource helps you exploit that claw.
It's just like 3 damage.
Okay.
So it's just like I'm not saying that you're wrong. I do think that a lot of decks are built around power spiking like with a Tunic.
Yeah.
But I think that it also like I think when you ban Tunic, it opens the door for you to create alternative ways for decks to do that. Like for example, a warrior has access to cards like Grains of Blood Spill. That lets you bank up resources.
Man, it's also what Battle Worn 2.
Yeah.
Okay. So
or Temper, I think.
Temper 2. Oh, still you get 2 defense out of it. Maximum 3.
Yeah.
Right.
So you have cards like Grains of Blood Spill. For Guardians, like they have seismic surges that they can make with tectonic plating or other methods that just they don't do that right now because Tunic exists.
Okay. All right. I see the argument. Like I said, I don't agree with any of Yuanji's suggestions. We've been going on rather long. Do you have anything to say about any of your 3 suggestions, or are you just throwing it out there and letting the viewers decide?
I'm throwing it out there. I'm planting the seeds. Let us know in the comments whether or not you agree with me or you think that
he's crazy. You don't need to agree with me. You just need to say he's crazy.
I'm in the streets with the little sign and the speaker going on. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, ban Fyendal Spring Tunic.
Ban Fyendal Spring Tunic.
Yeah, heed the word.
Heed the word, or else it's all over. Yeah. Armageddon is coming if you don't ban Fyendal Spring Tunic.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, hope you liked the episode. We come up with crazy episodes like this once in a while. This is totally his idea. I was just along for the ride. Remember to support us on Patreon because your dollars go to the FaBled Runaways and this guy. Let's go Runaways, everybody. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, twiddle that notification button. Leave a comment, especially for this episode. All right? And let us know what you think. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Philia, what are you eating?
Noodle.
What type of noodle?
Udon noodle.
Udon noodles? Do you like it?
Yeah.
Do you remember what day it is?
Father's Day.
Do you want to say anything to your baba?
Happy Father's Day. Bye-bye.
All right. Be good today. Be good every day. All right?
Okay.